Hi guys, it's Thomas Marr here from FormulaSpy.com. Codemasters have very graciously given us a copy of F1 2020 to have a look at ahead of the game's full release. That is coming up in 4 days' time. That's on July 10th. It's going to be released on basically all the big platforms, PS4, Xbox, PC, etc, etc. Now the copy I have is for the PlayStation 4. I'm going to be driving with a controller. I don't have room for a steering wheel, unfortunately, so I'm going to be using a controller. And assist-wise as well, I'll show you what assists I have setting up as we get the game going. So let's get the game loaded up and have a look. Right, so we're in the profile selection and just getting the character set up. So obviously the Irish flag. Come on, Ireland. And picking a number 88. That's the number I always race with. Sorry, Robert Kubica. So graphically so far, I think the game is pretty similar cosmetically to F1 2018 and 2019. It's very much just a kind of evolution of what we've seen before. But let's get a multiplayer game set up against one of the guys online, and we'll have a look at how the cars drive. Right, so we're just here in an unranked lobby. I'm going to be racing one of the other guys from FormulaSpy. I'm going to pick a car, and we're picking a couple of new tracks as well. We're going for the Netherlands, the Dutch Grand Prix, which is included in the game at Zandvoort. All the tracks that were originally scheduled to be on the Formula 1 calendar in 2020, they're the tracks you get in the game. So it's not like you're only getting 8 tracks as a result of half the races being cancelled. So yeah, we're going to try out the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. We're going to try the Vietnam Grand Prix at Hanoi, and the Austrian Grand Prix, seeing as we're racing in Austria for real at the moment. So I'm going to pick the Ferrari, simply because that's the car I usually drive, so I'll be able to check the consistency against F1 2019 using preset setups. We're not going to be messing around with any setups. The assists, some mild assists, so there's going to be brake assist is going to be turned on. Some mild traction control. Going to be driving with manual gears on the controller, as I said, and anti-lock brakes are going to be turned on, and also the braking points as well for the corners, because I don't actually know these tracks, Vietnam or Zandvoort yet. So going to get started once it loads. Right, so here we are in our cockpit. As you can see, it's not really too different to what we've seen before in F1 2019. There's the setup options. Going to stick with the default setups. I don't really tinker around with setups too much. So for a track I don't know, I'll usually go for a balanced default setup. Not going to go lower downforce. So yeah, you have the option there of custom setups so that you can mess around with your setups. But I'm not very mechanically minded, so I generally don't mess around with them too much. Usually running setup 3 or setup 4. So I'm going to go for setup 3 here and try a qualifying lap. And we've one-shot qualifying turned on for this. I'm going to try a lap of Zandvoort. This is my first ever lap of this track, so don't laugh. I love it already. This is brilliant. Okay, let's try this. Right, heading down into turn 1. Hitting the brakes, turning in. Whoa, that's understeery. Okay, that was, yeah, a bit more understeer than I'd be used to. Whoa. Right, this corner is interesting. Whoa, oh, okay, that was, right, the car didn't handle quite as predictably there as I would have thought. Yeah, the handling model does seem a little bit different to F1 2019. This is the car, the Ferrari is the car I always drive with online and in the F1 game, simply because me and the other boys from FormulaSpy, we have our own little racing league, and we always race for the same team. So it's me and one of the other guys racing for Ferrari, and then 2 of the other lads racing for McLaren. So I'm very, very used to the Ferrari, and this car definitely feeling a little bit more understeery than what we'd be used to. So, oh, yeah, definitely. The handling is different. It's hard to explain why. It's not really that it's unpredictable, and I don't think it's anything that you wouldn't get used to very, very easily and very quickly. But yeah, that's our first lap of Zandvoort, and I have qualified in 17th. Great, brilliant. Right, let's move on to the race and see how the AI are. We have the AI set to 100 for this. So, oh no, sorry. The AI is set to 70 for now. We'll turn it up to 100 for the tracks we know. So once we get to Austria, which is a track we do know, we'll turn the AI up to 100. So we'll try the race at level 70. Right, so here we go. And one thing you will have noticed is in the bottom right, the rev counter. It's a lot more difficult to see. It's quite a lot smaller than it was in F1 2019. But we're off to a reasonable start. Gonna try to stay on the left hand. Whoa! Okay, right. Yeah, that's a bit messy. But, oh, yeah, 2-second time penalty to start the race. Great. That was my fault. I completely got caught out there. Oh, getting smart here. And we're going to try around the outside. And no, okay, I've done the same mistake as I did a couple of minutes ago. I expected the car to step out. It didn't. And I've just gone straight on. So, right, we'll see how we get on from here. And don't forget, this is only my second lap of this track. So don't laugh at me too much.
All right, we're looking good so far.
Glad you think so, Jeff. Gonna try up the... Oh, I've completely misjudged that. And yeah, I suck at this. Right, backing out. The ghosting seems to turn on a lot quicker than it did in F1 2019. Which is pretty welcome. There's nothing worse than when you'd make a mistake and immediately be crashed into. It would cost you so much time, and inevitably as well you'd get a penalty. So that's a welcome change to see that ghosting is basically instantaneous the minute you make a mistake. So right, I'm coming up on Creepser and going to try getting past him, and he's made a mistake. He's gone flying off. It's only his second or third lap of this track as well, so haha. Right, let's get the head down and see what we can do from here. Right, I'm on the final lap now. I've kind of caught up on Lance Stroll, beginning to find a little bit more confidence with the track. And really enjoying this circuit, actually. It's fast, it's flowing, and I think there's quite a few lines you can take around it. So it's a pity that we didn't actually get to race here for real this season. It would have been pretty amazing to actually visit Zandvoort. But... yeah, it's a fun track. Really enjoying it, and I think Codemasters have done a good job with making it quite enjoyable to drive. I am going to get past Lance Stroll. Here we go! Ooh. Right, I managed that. Don't forget I have a 2-second time penalty, so I'm going to lose that place anyway. Max Verstappen's won, pleasing the home crowd. And can I get past Giovinazzi? Let's have a go. I have a tiny little bit of ERS left. And no, I'm not going to get past him. One thing you probably will have noticed is that the ERS deployment system has been simplified for this game, and I'm in two minds about it. It is far easier to deploy because all you have to do is press L1 rather than scrolling to it in your heads-up display and then, you know, having to select what mode you want. But the one problem is there only really seems to be a kind of, it's basically on or off. So in one mode, it's in kind of medium and regenerating. And then if you press L1, it goes into overtaking mode and it's deploying at maximum speeds. So it's a simplified system, but it's basically an on or off switch. So I think I'd prefer the more complicated. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I haven't messed around with the settings enough yet. But they are advertising that it's a simplified ERS in this game. So yeah, the default seems to be that L1 is on or off. And don't forget, in the old games, L1 was to talk to your engineer over the radio. And that is not the button for this game, by default anyway. It's R1 now if you want to talk to your engineer. So let's try Vietnam and we'll head off to Hanoi. Right, so let's give this a go. Onto the main straight. Looks good. This first corner looks pretty tight. Oh, it's very tight. Okay, wasn't expecting that. Again, don't forget, this is my first ever lap of this track, and It's not like I've studied the map or anything, so I have no idea where I'm going. I know that there's a very long straight here, or two very long straights. Is this one of them? Yeah, it looks like it's one of them. This is fast enough. Right, coming down into the braking zone. Dropping down. As you can see, I'm full of mechanical sympathy for my gearbox. This is unusual. Right, accelerating out of that corner and back up to speed. I can see myself running out of ERS along this straight. This is a very long straight, and with DRS. I'd imagine that there will be, it'll be quite easy to overtake, I'd imagine, along here. This is a long, long straight. Okay. Very, very sharp hairpin at the end of that straight. Accelerating back out. Into another sequence. Oh, just one. Okay. Oh, okay, this is quite tight. This reminds me of Korea, the final sector at the old Korea track. Yeongnam. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeongnam. I can't quite remember. Right. Okay. It's quite difficult, actually. This. Right. I would imagine I'm close to the back. Where am I? I am in. Where am I? Come on. 6th. Wow, that was a terrible lap, and I'm in 6th. Okay, the AI levels are obviously a little bit different because I actually thought my qualifying lap at Zandvoort was a bit better. The AI level's still set to 70 because I don't know this track. And first impressions of Hanoi, I'm not hugely impressed, to be honest. It kind of feels like a Formula E track with the little roundabout there at the end and the really, really long straights and the tight hairpins. But that last sector really felt like the Korea track that used to be used up until 2011. So right, we'll get the race started and we'll have a look. Alright, so I'm going to try keeping this one a little bit cleaner. And here we go, off the line. And yeah, there's nothing too different to F1 2019. I'd imagine that... just tap the back signs there. Let's try around the outside here. As you can see, the Merc is running the old livery that the W11 launched with. That will be patched very soon. Collision with Bottas. Oh, whoops, that's my mistake. Don't know the track particularly well, so... Oh, he's going to come back at me here. Right, okay. The AI are set to 70, and I think that it's a little bit easier to keep up with them than it was at Zandvoort. Right, this long straight. I'm going to try defending, because I can see Bottas coming back at me very fast here. Ooh, is he going to try it? Probably not at level 70. It'll probably be quite easy to defend. Is he going to try? He's there. I kind of misjudged that, forgetting how sharp that hairpin is. Right. I'll skip forward a little bit in the race and let's see how we do. Right, so I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the car and the track. We're on to lap 5, so I've kind of starting to click with the track now, starting to learn it. And the car is definitely not as hooked up as the 2019 Ferrari. Obviously, at the time of this game being released, we didn't know how bad the 2020 Ferrari was. So it's not amazing to drive, but it's probably better than the real one. So as you can see, the DRS effect, and I held on to some ERS, and I'm able to power past Sergio Perez with ease, going down that massively long second back straight. Don't think I'll be able to get Max as well. Probably not through this last sector. There's not a whole lot I can do. But yeah, ooh, I nearly lost the rear there. Just took a little bit too much curb. And through the last, I think it's the second last corner. This is the second last corner. And then into the last, no, I can't get Max. Just a little bit too out of touch for me. But, oh, yeah, ooh, I made a right hames of that. Across the line and second place, fastest lap. And right, okay, so that's the two new tracks. and I think they're okay. The Zandvoort is fun. Hanoi, not so much of a fan, but I'm sure I'll get used to it and probably appreciate it a bit more with a couple of 100% races under my belt. But next up, we're going to one of my favourite tracks. We're off to the Red Bull Ring. And both myself and Creepser, who is still in the lobby, both of us are quite decent around the Red Bull Ring. So let's move on to that track and see how we do there. Right, so I'm a lot more confident for the Red Bull Ring, and I know that I'm going to go for a different setup. I'm going to go for setup 4, and I'll be able to attack this lap a lot more, simply because I actually know this track quite well, and it is one of my favourites. So let's give it a go. Okay, through turn 1. A little bit left on the table. Feels fast. Up to turn 3. There feels a little bit different to F1 2019. It feels like the camber has been slightly changed since last year. A little bit more tricky to get the power down. Down into turn 4. And yeah, the car is definitely not quite as hooked up as the 2019 Ferrari. So whatever Codemasters have done, they have changed the handling a little bit. The car just doesn't want to bite quite as well. And I'm turning in a little bit earlier to compensate, and it's slightly catching me out. The bite just isn't quite there. But love this section of the track. And down the gears into the last corner. And across the line, and yeah. So that is slower than what I believe. Oh, I'm on pole. That is slower than what I think the real times are in qualifying. The real qualifying times were in the 1 minute 2s, 1 minute 2.9, so a 1 minute 4. So I presume that will be patched or changed a little bit anyway to rectify, to get a little bit closer to the real life times anyway, because that was a dry lap time, and the AI are turned back up to 100 here because we know this track. So let's get into the race and have a look. Right, let's give this a go. I'm determined to beat Creepser here. We've had a couple of ding-dongs here in the past, so I think he's going to be out to crush me in this one. So he will dive. There we go. Yeah, I told you he tried to dive, and he spun. Haha. Oh, 2 seconds. Why did I get a penalty? Right. Okay, well, I'm reasonably confident I'll be able to pull away from everyone else. Will I try holding them up? I might try holding them up just to let Aaron try to catch back up. I also want to see just how aggressive the AI are now that we've turned them back up to 100. The max is 110, so usually, depending on the track, we race between 100 and 103. Anything beyond that, and we just find it a little bit too difficult with controllers to beat them or even be on pace with them at some tracks. So yeah, I'm going to try holding them up so Creepser can catch back up. Let's see how aggressive the AI get. In F1 2019, the AI weren't particularly brilliant. They would tend to stick their car in stupid places, and just in general, you would end up having stupid collisions unless you treated them with kid gloves all the time. You had to treat them like they were stupid, like they were idiots at all times. And that was the only way you could really survive racing with them. So let's see how aggressive they get with me as I try to hold them up a bit. I'm going to hold on to my fuel and my ERS as much as I can. And I'm really causing them some problems. But yeah, Creepser seems to be making some progress. Just dawdling on the apex a little bit, get them slowed down. In real life, I would not get away with this. They would be past me in a heartbeat. Hamilton's going for it. Oh, let's try crowding him. Now, there is a difference, I think, between this and F1 2019. I think in F1 2019, I would have been spun around there. I don't think Hamilton would have backed out there. So I'm not sure of what changed. Oh, Verstappen's got the run on me. I'm not going to be able to do anything about that. Let's see if I can get him back. Not yet. I need to get back in front of him so that I can hold him up a bit more. Fastest lap from Verstappen. Creeps are fastest lap, wouldn't be difficult. Whoops, I'm catching myself out now. Right, I think I've got the run on him here, and I'll be able to get back past. Ooh, he's squeezing me, but again, I think that would have resulted in contact in 2019, where they tended to drive as if you weren't there most of the time, even at that AI level. So just holding off Verstappen, and Creepser's up to 4th. I think he just touched the back of me there. Right, going to hold him up a bit more. Going to let Creepser get back into the race. We're already more than halfway through this race. We're only doing 5 lappers, just to have a look. Graphically, I think the game isn't really too different to 2019. I don't think much has changed in terms of lighting, textures, shadows, anything like that. I think it's basically just a cosmetic change for the different sponsors around the track, and Creepser has caught up and he's flown off the road. Right, I am not going to be hanging around again. I'm going to push on because I have a 2-second time penalty. So let's turn things up now and let's see what we can do. Oh, a little bit of a twitch there. But yeah, as I was saying, I think cosmetically the game is fundamentally the same as 2019. There's not a huge difference really, and now that I've driven the car for a while and I'm at a track that I know a bit better, the handling isn't really too different either. I would say that this game is very much an evolution of 2019. It's a repackaged F1 2019 really. There's nothing revolutionary here, but we will have a look at some of the new features in the game as well. And I also want to show you, I'm going to do a longer race. I'm going to do a 25% race at the Red Bull Ring as well, in the rain. We'll see how we do at 100%. We won't do it in multiplayer mode, and I'll show you that in a few minutes time. So the car is definitely, it wants to push wide more than the 2019 car, but I'll take that. Fastest lap into the final lap. Don't think I have enough ERS to, oh, I've made a mess of that anyway. Warning, exceeded track limits. Last year a major complaint that I had with the game was that the flags were too strict. So if you had it in regular mode for corner cutting, it was too lax and you could skip parts of the track if you really wanted to, as I experienced on numerous occasions in online racing. And then if you turned them on to strict, they were too strict. And literally you'd do something that the F1 drivers did in real life and you get a penalty. And you would have races online where every driver got a penalty or some form of time penalty just from exceeding track limits. And it might have been like that, where you just cross the white line a little bit and boom, you get a penalty. But yeah, this has been a pretty easy race really. Nothing too much to complain about really in that. So yeah, the AI at level 100, pretty straightforward, which is basically the same. I don't think it's changed too much from F1 2019. The one thing I would say is I think the AI might be a little bit smarter, because in none of those 3 races have I had a collision where I felt, aggrieved by the AI, and that happened constantly in the 2019 game. So right, let's move on to another race, and we'll do the Red Bull Ring in the rain.
Welcome to Spielberg for another exciting Formula One race. This circuit is renowned for its backdrop, surrounded by natural beauty. Well, it certainly is an idyllic destination for the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 rights and 3 lefts, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections.
Yeah, some lovely topical computer-generated commentary there from David Croft. Let's hear a little bit more.
It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. And Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are 3 big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And it's...
Right, they weren't really showing any signs of actually, stopping talking. So, right, let's have a look at our start. I'm after taking pole position. It was a dry qualifying, so I'm after taking pole. But it's a wet race, and I'm running setup 4 again for this race. So I probably will struggle a little bit more in the rain. But I'm not going to go with a pit stop. So let's go. Right, off to a reasonable start. Bottas and Leclerc falling in behind. And, oh, that's quite tricky. I wouldn't say I'm amazing in the rain. I'm not particularly amazing in general, but I'm definitely better in the dry than I am in the rain. And Bottas, yeah, he's definitely threatening me. Oh, the car's quite twitchy. Feels a little bit heavy. We're doing a 25% race here, and I like to hold on to my energy and my fuel until a little bit later in the race when the car gets lighter. So I'm going to try to hold them off as much as I can without having to use up any more energy or fuel. Bottas is all over me. Really, really struggling to get the front end of this car to actually turn in, especially in the rain. Can definitely feel as well the rear is quite twitchy. Made a bit of a mess of that. Oh, right. Can't touch too much of the curb there. Now, that seemed a little bit strange. For level 100 AI and that mistake, I think Bottas should have been... He seemed to back out of that very, very easily. That was a little bit strange. Right, I'm not able to shake him. But I really think he should have actually been able to pass me there. Right, he's going up the outside. And I will brake a little bit. Oh, don't quite get it stopped. Will he get past me here? Again, I really think he should have been past me there. I think the 100 AI level... I won't say they're not being aggressive, but they definitely feel less aggressive than F1 2019. I'm going to try to hang on to it. And is he going to back out? He backs out of it again. So yeah, they do feel easier than 2019. Might have to try upping the AI level a little bit if I don't get eaten alive by Bottas later on in the race. But for now, he's backing out. Whoa, what's happened there? He's fallen quite a bit behind me now. So let's keep our heads down and see if we can pull away. Gap's around 2 seconds. I'm doing fastest laps. As I said, I'm not going to use too much of my ERS or my fuel just yet. I'll hang on to that. There's obviously something going on back there because I'm pulling away quite easily now. I think Bottas and Leclerc might be scrapping. Down to the gears. I'm using this race as a good way to compare to F1 2019 simply because Austria is one of my favourite tracks. The Ferrari is the car that I always drive, and it gives me something to directly compare against. And as I said, the impressions I've had so far is that Codemasters have reduced the performance of the Ferrari a little bit. It doesn't feel quite as grippy as the 2019 car. It doesn't bite as easily. It's a little bit more understeery, and that rear just feels twitchy. I presume that the Merc is probably the best car in the game to drive. So, as far as I can remember, I have the car set to equal performance. Can't actually tell because obviously this version of the game was made before the Austrian Grand Prix, so presumably the Ferrari car performance isn't the 5th best car that we saw in the real racing. So presumably they've kept the Ferrari as, pretty close to the top in terms of performance in this game. So I'm not pulling away from Bottas anymore. In fact, I just got the white arrow there again, so I think he's closing in on me a little bit. But won't panic just yet. Just keep the head down, keep trying to pull away. Gearing wise, I think I might have to try that corner in second gear to see if I can get a little bit better bite. That one's okay. This one, you can see the front just doesn't really want to turn in too much. Oh, a little bit too much curb there. Yeah, oh, I actually forgot to turn off the track corner guides for this track, seeing as I actually know this track quite well. Oh well. Right, fastest lap. No, they are starting to catch me, I think. Just a little bit. And just so you know, I am pushing properly here. I'm not purposely trying to let them catch up. I am absolutely pushing to my limits here at the moment. But as I said before, if you look at the graphic interface down in the bottom right, the ERS is probably my biggest gripe so far, simply because I don't think there's enough level of control over the ERS. At this point of the race, I'd like to be driving around in low ERS deployment while trying to... Ooh, you could see the rear there just got a little bit unstable. But yeah, I always like to try managing my ERS by driving in as low an ERS mode as possible while maintaining... Oh, I really screwed that one up. Yeah, you can't hit that curb too hard. I just got bounced into the outer escape area. But yeah, they're definitely starting to close in on me a little bit again. See, I'm turning in earlier for the corners than I would with the 2019 game, simply because I think that the front of this car doesn't grip quite as well. So I'm trying to compensate by turning in a little bit earlier, and just caught myself out there a little bit. Plus, I do make mistakes quite regularly. But yeah, as I was saying in one of the 5-lap races earlier, the L1 button is for ERS, and it's basically just it's on or off switch. So it's either full ERS overtake mode, or you know, a kind of off mode, which is medium, and it allows you to regenerate. But I prefer to be able to, you know, completely switch it off, or drive around in low mode, the way you could in the 2019 game. Maybe there's a setting to change it back to where you can have the option of simplified or the more complicated. I didn't find the ERS particularly complicated, but maybe this is to appeal more to more casual fans. I'm going to hold off on using up my energy and my rich fuel mode until a little bit later in the race. I think the grip of the tyres is starting to go a little bit, but won't panic just yet. Bottas is closing pretty fast on me now. So far, I have to say, I think the AI level is easier than last year. I don't know whether it's been changed or tinkered with, or whether I'm just a driving god. But yeah, it's relatively easy so far. Especially when you consider that in that race at Hanoi, I finished second, and I'd never even driven the track before. So I think the AI is not quite as difficult as it could be. Might have to try a race at 110 once I play the game more during the week. But I hope you guys are getting a feel for what the game is like. It is very much an evolution of F1 2019 and 2018 before. Have you noticed you don't even really notice the halo anymore? So even though it's there, you don't see it. It was kind of obstructing your view a little bit last year, and you could tell it was there. But now after, what, a year of playing F1 2019 pretty regularly, you don't even see it anymore. So the fact that you can see in this view, the fact that you can actually see your tires pretty easily, it doesn't really change like how you're able to approach the corners, or you can still tell where your nose is because the halo basically lines up with it, which is, I presume that was done on purpose. It's very handy for this camera view. If I ever get a steering wheel, I will swap camera views. I'd like to drive in cockpit, but it just doesn't feel right. I have had a steering wheel before and I used the cockpit view and it felt far more natural with a steering wheel, but when you're using a controller it doesn't feel right, and this view is the one where I feel I've got most control when I'm using a controller. So we're approaching halfway through the race now, and so far so good. Seem to be pulling away. Took a little bit too much curb there than I'd like, but had to back out of the throttle a little bit. And yeah, the lap times are coming down. Don't know whether the track is getting a little bit drier or not. But definitely seem to be able to put down the power a little bit better. A couple of laps time now I'll start turning things up so I can try to pull away from Bottas again and see if I can put in some faster laps. I actually got to walk this track last year at the Austrian Grand Prix. I was at the race as a journalist and went for a walk around the track, and it is an absolutely spectacular venue, and it's very hard for a computer game to do justice for the scenery. They haven't done a bad job. The mountains are there. This is a lot steeper than it looks in the game. It's very steeply downhill, far more than you'd think. And the hills, the uphill bits, you'd be properly tired walking up them. They are steep. This straight as well, you never really realise just how much of a curve there is on it, and I can see why a couple of years ago they actually made this curve a corner. It used to just be part of the straight, and this was turn 2, but now it's turn 3. Oh, I slightly missed my braking there, but turn 3, that's now turn 3, because they judged that curve to be enough, and now it has an extra corner. This section is a lot steeper than it looks in the game as well. But yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, and it's kind of set in a valley. And last year, of course, it was really, really sunny and hot and warm, 35 degrees. And walking around it, we walked it on the Saturday evening, and it's just, it was just a spectacular place to walk around. And very quiet and peaceful when the cars aren't actually tearing it around the place. Love this section of the track. Oh, ran slightly wide there. Reasonably pleased with my consistency so far. Heading into lap 11. Start turning up the power now soon. I have plenty of it, as you can see, but I want to hold off just in case Bottas has a little bit more up his sleeve. I have to say, despite it being wet, I'm finding it quite easy to be consistent. The handling is quite predictable. It's not amazing handling, but at least it's predictable handling. So the understeer is kicking in where I'm expecting it to, like there. And the oversteer is there when I'm expecting it to be as well. The one thing I would say is that I think, compared to last year, you do have to be a little bit more careful with the throttle application. And I use anti-lock brakes, assist on that on the controller, because I found it too hard to regulate the braking using the controllers. So I have anti-lock brake assist on, but in terms of throttle control and medium traction control, I am finding that I'm having to be a lot more gentle with the throttle application compared to last year. Last year you could kind of pull the R2 button back to about halfway, and you could regulate the throttle quite easily from there, and then, you know, curve your power up by pulling back on the R2 button. But on this, I think you're only kind of, it's like, say, coming out of this corner here, I'm only really going to about quarter power on the R2 before kind of building it back up to fully pulling the button. If I went to half, I think the rears would just light up. So I think that is something that has changed compared to last year. The sensitivity of the traction. So like here again, it's about a third of the way back on the R2 button. And then slow. Oh, poor Kimi's out of the session. Just like in real life. Today, earlier on, of course, Raikkonen retiring with his wheel falling off. Thank you very much, Alpha. They got a €5,000 fine for that. But yeah, they didn't look particularly fast anyway. But I think this game is probably, well, like most racing games now, they are really kind of more set up for a steering wheel setup and the playseat setups. And oh, there's Kimi's car. Pull over to the side. Not far from where you're retired in real life. But I think that if you have a steering wheel and a playseat, this game is probably amazing in terms of, you know, being able to control the throttle and the brake a little bit more easily than a controller. And I think if I had one of them, I would probably be able to turn up the AI to 110 for a little bit more realism, but I do find it a little bit too tricky to, like, say I turn off traction control here with the controller. I just find it very, very difficult to control the throttle with enough sensitivity with traction control fully off. With medium traction control, it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. And as you can see, I'm not spinning wildly out of control despite driving the Ferrari with reasonably low downforce in the rain. And my tyres aren't in particularly great shape at this stage. But yeah, I think I have a handle on Bottas now. He's not really monstering me, so I think I'm going to try turning things up in a minute, and we'll try and go a bit faster. I'm pulling away comfortably enough, but I think I'm going to try messing around with the energy, especially coming out of the slower corners, and see if I can pull away a little bit more, because at the moment with the AI set to 100, I'm leading comfortably, but I'm not pulling away really either. So they are roughly on the same pace as me, at least Bottas is anyway, and Albon and Leclerc aren't too far behind. So let's, oh, my tyres are reasonably quite well gone actually. But the pace isn't really dropping off too much, so I should be able to make the end really without too many issues from here. Right, I've plenty of energy. Fuel mix is up. And I think I will try turning up the energy now in a sec. And we will go for a fast lap. Little bit of a wobble there. Can definitely feel the extra little bit of power as I put down the throttle there out of turn 1. Just that little bit more of a wiggle from the rear of the car. Purple through the first sector. Get the car stopped, up through the gears. I'm trying to keep the steering angle as mild as possible through that corner so I can get the power down in as straight a line as possible. Down into turn 4, braking, trying to get as much bite from the front end to get onto that curb as possible. And I'm slightly short shifting as well, just to try getting better drive up through the gears and keep the wheel spin down as much as possible. Down into fourth, and I've been struggling with this corner all race to try getting the front turned in, but that was alright. Reasonably happy with that. And again here, kind of having to turn in earlier than you think you do. And a reasonable lap, kind of screwed up the last corner a little bit. But I'm running out of ERS as well quite quickly, simply because I'm either in overtake mode or I know I keep harping on about it, but it really is just on or off. And when it's on, you're using up too much energy over the lap. So I'd rather have some more control over that so that I could regulate the energy better through the lap. so that I could keep it in higher modes at different sections of the track and then lower it when I wanted to. But yeah, with 2.5 laps to go, I'm pretty sure I've got this one in the bag now at this stage, assuming I don't throw it off the road. The rear is quite loose now coming out of some of the corners, but it's nothing too unpredictable. The handling is remaining predictable, and the tyre life seems quite linear. I have to say, I think the grip level is slightly better than F1 2019. There does appear to be a little bit more grip overall. I would make quite a lot of mistakes in F1 2019, but so far I haven't actually felt close to making anything too major, despite the wet conditions. Touch wood. 2 laps to go. Let my energy build back up a little bit. So right, in a couple of minutes time, I'll just bring you some, I won't do it myself, but I'll show you some of the features that are also being introduced into the game, such as split screen. Do you remember split screen? Do you remember when that was a thing? Split screen is back in this game, so you will actually be able to play 2-player at home on your TV, as opposed to having to have 2 people, 2 TVs, 2 PlayStations, 2 copies of the game, and then 2 decent internet connections. Obviously there is the drawback of the graphics, but it's not too bad actually on this game. It's not like Formula 1 97. Do you remember that game from Psygnosis? I think it's a game that's actually lasted pretty well. I fired it up over the enforced shutdown on my PlayStation 1. I took out Formula 1 97 and played it again, and it still holds up, I think. I was driving as Williams number 1 at Jerez, and the graphics are terrible. You could see pixelated blobs in the distance that are somehow Formula 1 cars. My tires are quite far gone now. But yeah, you could see the tires off, the cars off in the distance. They don't sound really like Formula 1 cars. They sound like whiny little bees, but it's a fun game, Formula 197, and the handling is fun. It's not particularly realistic, but it's much better than the games that came after it, 98, 99, 2000, and I think the first decent game after 97 was probably F1 Challenge 99 to 2002. I played that one a lot as a teenager on PC. Remember the one with Juan Pablo Montoya on the front? And you had a choice of 4 seasons as well, 99 up until 2002. But yeah, that is a 25% race at Austria, with the AI set to 100, in the rain, set up 4, and pretty easy win. Didn't really feel too under pressure during that. Now, if I'd made a mistake, I think that was the kind of race where if I made a mistake, I would not have been able to recover from it. But the fact that I was leading and didn't make a mistake, I had just about enough pit. What? That's Mattia Binotto. That does not look like a Mattia Binotto. He looks like the Fonz with Harry Potter glass. That did not look right. But right, that was 25% race. As you can see, the graphics, they still have that kind of uncanny valley feel to them. Alpha Tauri, Daniel Kvyat, with the new livery. Been asked not to show you the Williams or the Mercedes stuff too much, but yeah. There's Sebastian, looking reasonably like what Sebastian Vettel looks like. But yeah, that'll give you an idea of the graphics. Pretty good. And overall, I think graphically and control-wise, the game is very much an evolution of last year. Nothing too revolutionary. It's F1 2019 with a new dress on, really. But let's have a look at some of the new features in the game, including the split screen. Alright, so this is demo footage supplied by Codemasters, so the driving has nothing to do with me. But yeah, this is the 2-player split screen. And as you can see, the graphics are a major step up from what you would have seen in the past on some games. There doesn't really seem to be much of a graphical handicap compared to what there used to be, where already poor graphics got even worse when you made it split screen, and it was like just driving 2 polygons around the track. But now it actually feels like you're actually racing. The only thing is, I don't know why anyone would ever drive in the chase view that's been shown on the bottom. Why on earth would you drive in that view? It's a terrible view. But yeah, for the purposes of showing you what it looks like, there you go. It's got a big pole coming out of the back of the racing point with a camera mounted on it, because otherwise how else would you be able to get that camera angle? But yeah, it is a welcome return, I think, to have a split screen return to a game, because I think a major problem with racing games, especially in the last couple of years, is the lack of local multiplayer. So the return of a local multiplayer, rather than having to have all the equipment for a networked multiplayer, it is welcome. And even just for having fun at the likes of Christmas time, when you have all the family over, it's much better to have the option of having more people being able to play the game and race each other, and 2 people in the same household being able to actually compete. So I think it's a very welcome return to have multiplayer back in the game. So the last thing I want to have a look at is a new feature called My Team. And this is a game mode where you are responsible for absolutely everything to do with the team, including development, including like where you decide to assign your resources, your sponsors, your money, everything to do with running the team, as well as actually driving for the team. So it's a fully comprehensive kind of team management mode to the game. So there's me. Doesn't really look like me, but that's my character profile. So we're going to have a look at trying to get the actual team set up, and you have to choose a sponsor. Team name. Right, well, I'm going to call it FormulaSpy, because why wouldn't I?
Nice. Now, some kind of income stream is critical, so we need to sign a primary sponsor. Our primary sponsor will
So now I have to choose a sponsor. And as you can see, you have a set budget, and there's payouts and how much money you get back and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to, what sponsor will I choose? Basically, I'm going to choose based on which I think looks coolest or sounds coolest. Shark sounds like an energy drink, so no. Love energy drinks, but no, I'm not going to have one on my car. Pacifico sounds like a bank. Loop, these are all fake sponsors, as you've probably guessed. And the money you get as well, 4.3.
Fantastic. Now we've got a budget to work with.
I'm going to go for slingshot fuel.
Going anywhere fast without a power unit. So let's sign a power unit.
Now I have to pick a power unit supplier as well. Renault, Ferrari, Mercedes and Honda, all of course costing a little bit, costing different amounts. 2.7 million for the Renault, 4.1 for the Ferrari, and then 3.4 for the Mercedes. I wonder, would those prices be different? I would imagine those prices will be changed a little bit for the game actually going live, because Ferrari now don't appear to have the best engine in the world, so why would it be the most expensive? Now this is a strange section for me. This is where you have to choose your teammate for your new team. Now I haven't had this option come up for me, but as you can see, it's Formula 2 drivers. Jack Aitken's there, Callum Millett is there, Nikita Mazepan, and Jordan King there as well. They're all available for me to choose from, and I have not had this option appear for me, but Creepser, when he was setting up his team, said that Antoine Hubert shows up as an option to choose, and I think it's an honourable decision to include Antoine in the game. Juan Manuel Correa is there, Chungalile, and Ragged Nathan, they're all available to choose Formula 2 drivers. But Hubert is there as an option. He's not there showing up for me, but apparently he is there to choose as an option. And I get that it's a good, well-intended gesture to include Antoine in the game. But I do feel it's a little bit strange to include Antoine within the 2020 game,
Looks like we
considering
can afford
the
this power unit
circumstances.
supplier and teammate.
And
Go ahead and confirm if you're happy.
yeah,
Obviously, the
I'm sure the family
performance
are
engine building, the
happy
better.
to,
Looks like we can afford the
you know,
fewer
and
the
they've
drivers
approved
interested
his
in
inclusion
joining
within
our
the
team.
game.
Look at their
But
stats
personally,
and pick
I
someone you
think it's a
can
little
get
bit
us good
strange.
results.
But
As long as it looks like we can
right,
afford
who will I
this
choose?
power unit
I'll put
supplier.
Callum Illett in the car. I'm going to go for the Honda engine. And
Let's select
that
or edit
is
delivery
my
we'll be running
budget
this
spent.
season. We can add
So
more
now I
sponsors to
actually
the
have
cars
to
and assign them throughout the year. And don't
choose the
worry,
look
we
of
can
my
edit our
car.
look at any time from HQ.
Now I'm Irish, so I want a Jordan. How do I get a Jordan? There's Michael Schumacher liveries. I believe the version that Codemasters has sent me is the Schumacher edition, of which there will be different versions, different Michael Schumacher cars available to drive in the Legend, in the classic car sections, such as the Jordan 191, the Benetton B194 is included as well. But yeah, I want to have a Jordan style livery here. So can I get the yellow and black theme on my Jordan? Just simply because I've always thought yellow and black was a really cool look, and I don't think Renault have really managed to kind of get the same coolness with their livery, their contemporary livery. There was something about those Jordan liveries, especially the 199. And of course there was the 2 wins for Frentzen in 99 as well, which everyone in Ireland celebrates to this day. Those that care about Formula 1 anyway. But I want a Jordan, and I don't think I can really get the yellow right. It's a little bit more, it's like greeny yellow. I can't get that kind of mustardy yellow that the Jordans used. But yeah, I'll continue to play with it. But this entire section of the game is set up so that you can control different aspects of the car's development, and you have full control over it. I'll put in a few screenshots for you to have a look at, supplied by Codemasters. So this is the engine department, and you're expected to work on your engine to make it more reliable, more powerful, and it's the equivalent of the token system really in real Formula 1. But you're supposed to work on your engine, or you will be, you know, not very competitive. So the next section is the aerodynamics section, and this department is, as you can see, it's not really much of an aerodynamic tunnel because it's more of a man with a hose, really. And yeah, it's to work on your aerodynamics to improve your aero through the year, because the purpose of this is that you are the 11th team on the grid, so you have full control over your team and how you allocate resources and build up your team, and you basically try to make it more and more competitive in the career mode. That is essentially what my team is. So this is the chassis section to improve your basic chassis throughout the year. That will be a room that you work. These screenshots, by the way, are from the work in progress and not the final product. Codemasters want us to stress. So you can expect some minor changes when the game is actually released. This is the sim section to help with your teammate and your reserve driver to improve their skills. And of course then there's the marketing section. And the marketing section tries to find you sponsors, and the more sponsors you have and the better sponsors you have, the more money you have to spend on the other resources. So that is the My Team section. So that is pretty much everything that I can think of for now with F1 2020. Thank you very much to Codemasters for for giving us a preview copy to review ahead of the release. And the release date is July the 10th. So, and don't forget, there's also a deluxe Schumacher edition, which will be coming with that exclusive content, including 4 of his most iconic cars. And you can check out the Codemasters website or Formula1Game.com for that as well. So it is going to be released on PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, Windows PC, DVD, and via Steam and Google Stadia as well. And I did mention the website, didn't I? Yeah, Formula1Game.com. And check out their Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook as well. Really looking forward to getting properly stuck into this game, simply because I think it's F1 2020, probably not improved a whole lot on 2019, but it's always nice to have the new and fresh version of the game. So looking forward to getting stuck into it, and hope you pick it up, and probably see you online at some point. And sure, we'll have a race. You can add my PlayStation Network name. If you're a PlayStation user, you'll have seen my name throughout the entirety of this video. And sure, you can challenge me to a race if you feel like it. That's it from me. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. It's at ThomasMaronF1. And you can also check out the website, FormulaSpy.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. More videos on the way very soon.